2023 was a crazy gaming year. There were a lot of releases. Suki, you heard me talking, so you came in here, huh? She has her own list of surprises too. You weren't expecting to get into a new house, were you? At any rate, there were a ton of game releases. Oh, geez, now the other one's in here. Gob Gob, what's up? At any rate, yeah, there were a lot of releases that came out in 2023, and I tried to play as many as I could. I played a lot of the indie ones, the cheaper ones, that is, basically. I did spring for some of the more expensive recent releases, most notably Starfield. I'll get to that a little bit later. But obviously, I didn't have the ability to play all of them, so I'm looking forward to seeing their list and seeing what on my list coincides with theirs. Oh, Hi-Fi Rush. Okay, so yeah, starting off right at the beginning of the year, 2023 started off with the surprise release from Microsoft, Hi-Fi Rush, a game that they hadn't announced. They announced the game the same day they released it. Actually, this came up in conversation on Twitter. Yeah, so prominent game designer Damian Schubert posted, and a former coworker of mine posted a response to this meme: if your game is going to take longer than 2 years to release, don't reveal it yet. For which he responded with, easier to hire for an announced game, that's true. Easier for indies to find funding for a game with a strong visible community, also true. And harder for bean counters to cancel a game that's announced, especially if it has strong visible community. That's half and half. Mostly true, but it's not impossible. I guess harder is the operative word there. It's still very much a thing that happens. I responded to that by saying I'm of two worlds of this. Yes, it's all of it is true, and I support all that. But then I think about games like Hi-Fi Rush that was announced the day it was released, and all the excitement and interest that generated. Would people have been as interested with the 2+ year lead up? To which he responded with, to be clear, this is not me saying that this is why studios should, just giving clarity as to why they might. The answer differs from game to game. Also, Hi-Fi Rush would have done better with more pre-launch hype, not 2+ years, but, and that's probably true. I actually did go back and look up some of the sales numbers and whatnot. There are some conflicting reports, actually. There are some that say that it was a success, that it peaked at about 3 million players. It doesn't really specify if that's concurrent or not, or total over I think it was August when that was dropped. I don't know if that's 3 million over a 6-month time span, but they at least said that much. There were some reports that the game was considered a failure because there wasn't enough, I guess the sales weren't impressive enough, considering, I guess, the boom of interest that the sudden release generated, and which that speaks to, I guess, Damian's point about maybe not a 2+ year lead up, but a little bit more of a lead for some marketing. I will say that for a game like that, I probably would have been excited to hear about the game's announcement prior to launch, but depending on how much time between that announcement and launch, very likely would not have given it a shot. I did buy this game as soon as it was announced/released, because it was shocking that it was being released the same day that it was announced. Like, that's not, the norm. And it looked cool. It looked like a lot of the Dreamcast games, old Dreamcast games I used to play. So I wanted to give it a shot. And if they had announced it and it looked like the old Dreamcast games I used to play, and I wanted to give it a shot, but I had to wait for a few months, I definitely would have forgotten about it. Like, this was an experiment in bringing impulse purchases to brand new game releases. I know that that's kind of a thing that exists on Steam to some degree. That tends to be more of like an indie game thing and not so much like a big, AAA studio release. So it was cool to see that, and the game was fun. It was a really fun game, had a really cool soundtrack, a really cool visual style. I liked it a lot. So yeah, this game popped. But that just made the surprise all the better. That is true. Also, it's from the studio that did all the Evil Within games. Hi-Fi Rush felt fresh and new when it launched, thanks to it dropping without a hint of the typical 12-month marketing campaign and bevy of teaser trailers so many other games dole out today. That's true. And I liked it for that reason, but, I get it. There's a lot of people out there who they need that. They need the hype train. They're waiting for the hype train to pull up to the station, and once they get on board, they're all for it. They're waving their flags. They're gonna buy that game, day one, and maybe without that build-up, maybe there's some money left on the floor. Arcane is making a Blade game. I just found out about this one, honestly. There's not much to say here as we only have a tiny teaser to go on, but even that has me excited. I could take or leave Marvel games. Sometimes they're fun, like Midnight Suns. Other times they are slogs, like the Avengers. Well, those are two totally different types of games. I played both. I got Avengers for the Xbox during the COVID year, and honestly, playing that game made me wish I had COVID instead. It was a waste of money, and I felt it was just not fun. It wasn't fun at all. It was a real bummer. And there was something very weird about looking at all of the Avenger characters, and they're all just like slightly off looking versions of their MCU counterparts. Like Captain America didn't look like Chris Evans, but he looked like he might be Chris Evans' uncle. It was all weird. It was off, and the gameplay just wasn't that fun. I did play a lot of Midnight Suns. I played that on stream towards the end of the year last year. And that's a strategy RPG. That's a strategy game, which it ingratiated more to me than Avengers did. So I played more of it. Writing was putrid. The writing was really, really bad. All the dialogue felt like it was written for like a CW show targeting like tweeners, which is not my bag. But the gameplay was fine. I think I probably would have played more of it if Tactics Ogre Reborn hadn't also been dropped at that time. Another tactical RPG that I devoted a lot of time to. I beat that one. But I actually do give Midnight Suns an approval on that. But Arcane, the studio behind Dishonored, Deathloop, and Prey, and also Dark Messiah Might and Magic, a game I played before on stream, making a Blade game set in Paris is damn near a perfect pitch, and I'm hyped to see more. It's also interesting that this game will be third-person adventure, departure from Arcane's first-person past. What will that mean? I don't know, but I'm ready to find out. Could be cool. I like and trust Arcane. I know that they're responsible for Redfall, and Redfall is an embarrassing stain on their discography of games, I suppose, if that's a term you can use for video games. But I haven't played Redfall myself, so I can't really say. Maybe it's warranted, all of the trashing that game gets. Maybe it's not. I don't know. But I'm sure the studio is eager to put that one in the grave. So let's hope that Arcane is onto better things with Blade. We finally got the GTA 6 reveal trailer. Yeah, after 12 years, they finally drop a fucking trailer for this thing, which I'm not a big Grand Theft Auto person. I've never been in that world. I mean, I remember working at GameStop when GTA 3 came out. And from GTA 3, was it GTA? I can't remember which one. Vice City? Was GTA 3 and Vice City different things? I really can't remember because I just didn't pay that much attention. It wasn't my thing. I tried Vice City. It just wasn't my thing. I remember people coming into the store super excited about all the different ways with which they could kill hookers, which always set off alarms in my head. It seemed like a red flag that people were super, super excited about finding new ways to kill hookers. But it never spoke to me. I tried it real hard. I played the first two Grand Theft Autos, the top-down overhead ones, and I like those well enough. But once it moved over into 3D, it just lost me. I played San Andreas for a while, and I thought it was cool that it was more role playing. It felt like, because like I could get CJ really fat. I would just have him eating fried chicken, and he would get real fat. Then I'd have him run all over the city and get into fist fights and stuff, and he'd lose weight and get fit. So like I thought that was really cool, but that was the only part about that game I like. Probably the only part about the series I like, honestly. But I watched the trailer, and it does look really cool. I don't know if it was I guess it's a surprise that they dropped the trailer, but it shouldn't have been a surprise because the leak happened. The leak happened about maybe a year prior to all of this being official, and the leak showed you quite a bit. So it at least made people aware that the game was coming along. So shouldn't have been a surprise that a trailer was going to drop. But I guess the surprise is that it was just in 2023 instead of 2024. More studios unionizing. Now, this is also a very, very cool thing. And a big surprise. This is a legitimate big surprise. The video game industry's union push isn't dead yet. In fact, it seems to be growing. Slowly but surely, more shops across the studios and publishers are organizing for better working conditions. CD Projekt Red and Avalanche Studios both formed unions in Poland and Sweden, respectively. Part-time Starfield testers were led into the ZeniMax union at Microsoft. Indie studio Tender Claws was the first group to actually successfully negotiate its contract, a binding document that codifies things like pay, benefits, and career advancement. And a group of roughly 200 marketing staff, community managers, localizers, and testers at Sega of America formed the industry's first cross-disciplinary union. That's an important part, because like most of these other unions are all just QA only, but to stretch unionization into like engineering and art and all of that, that's really what's going to change. That's really what's going to change the industry for the better, in my opinion. So that's a big one. And a surprising one. I worked in the game industry for 14 years. I've known a lot of engineers. And for whatever reason, maybe it's a Texas thing, maybe it's more broader across the industry as a whole, but a lot of engineers seem to be a lot more libertarian minded. And so the idea and concept of things like unionization generally tends to not sit well. Like there's a lot of independence and belief in exceptionalism, like individual exceptionalism within like the engineering discipline for whatever reason, coders and whatnot. And there should definitely be more union solidarity between engineering and non-engineering disciplines across the board, not just in the game industry, but in all of tech. And I think that the tech industry will begin to smooth out its inequities, as more of that sort of thing happens. I think it's probably worse in gaming than it is in non-gaming tech. I could assure you it's worse in gaming than it is in non-gaming tech. It's the reason I don't work in the game industry anymore. But who knows? Maybe that'll change if these things continue to move in a positive direction. Every labor movement comes with setbacks. Unionized testers at contracting agency Keyword Studios were laid off after BioWare dropped their contract. They recently picketed at the Dragon Age and Mass Effect studio for their old positions back, accusing Keywords of union busting. And Sega workers filed an unfair labor charge against the Sonic and Persona publisher for threatening to offshore 100 of their jobs for over-unionizing. Yeah, I mean, that's always going to be the fight, but you know what? They were probably going to offshore those jobs anyways, if they could. If they could get away with it, then they would do it. And it's all just a matter of finding competent offshore labor that is cheaper than what you can bring in-house. Which is, honestly, it's a harder task than you might think in gaming. But the silver lining to Microsoft's now completed acquisition of Activision Blizzard is that employees there will all have a much easier time unionizing due to the tech giant's labor neutrality agreement. Whether that means the Call of Duty publisher existing QA union at Raven Software will finally get the contract they've been negotiating for over a year remains to be seen. Okay, well, that's a big boon. Baldur's Gate 3 took over the internet. You'd expect a new Bethesda game would be the biggest RPG of the year, but nope. Instead, it was Baldur's Gate 3. I mean, if I had to guess which one was gonna do better ahead of time, I would have picked Baldur's Gate 3. Just because it's a known franchise, Baldur's Gate, popular franchise at that, and nobody really knew what Starfield was gonna be before it launched, so I definitely would have picked Baldur's Gate 3. Which officially launched earlier this year to rave reviews. We've written a lot about the game and already seen game already on this site, and you should check out those posts too. What I want to talk about here is how incredible it was to see a turn-based, PC-focused Dungeons & Dragons game developed by an independent studio and released via early access explode like the latest Call of Duty or GTA. Everyone I knew was playing it, everyone online was sharing screenshots, everyone was talking about all the people they were digitally fucking in the game. That may have contributed to the lion's share of why it went hyper-viral, is because this game is the horniest game that I've played in quite some time. And I've only played a little bit of it, but it's pretty radical in how fucking insanely horny this game is. You could pick your dick size. You could pick your character's dick size. And I guess in a recent update, just being able to pick how big or small your dick was and see it, you can see it. Like, you take off the character's underwear in the character creator and the dick is there. It's there. And then you grow it and it's like, and then you shrink it, it's so it's like, what the fuck is the purpose of this? Like, this dude's gonna be decked out in fucking 7 layers of armor at all times. Like, is it really necessary for me to sit here and be like, well, his dick needs to be about 2 centimeters longer. Can I make it thinner? It's a little too girthy. He needs to have a long dick, but a thin one. like one of those little breadsticks, those little tiny thin long breadsticks. That's kind of dick I want my elf to have. Like, why were they giving us that much choice? And the thing is, there was a recent update where they actually allowed you to flap it around. Like, if you move the character, if you rotated the character, a character creator, his dick would go boop, 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 boop. This is one of those instances where it's like, I hope these workers are unionized. I really do. I hope that they are going to the mat, fucking giving the C-suite aneurysms, fighting for better contracts and better benefits and PTO and all of that, just so that when they punch in for the day and sit down for their 8 hours or so, what they're spending all their time coding is, I have to make sure that this dick jiggle looks realistic. I have to make sure that it flaps. I want to be able to make him helicopter it. Can we get our gnome to helicopter their dick? Can we get a gnome? Is the gnome not the right? It's a little small for a gnome. I guess we'll have to get the tiefling to helicopter their dick. I don't know why that was such an important decision for them to make, but you know what? It was validated, right? Like, look at this. It exploded in popularity to the likes of a Call of Duty or GTA level game, which I agree with. It popped off hard. Won Game of the Year. Now it didn't win Game of the Year because of the dick figgling, but you know, I have to imagine that didn't hurt it. It was wild to watch, and a reminder: successful games don't always need to be flashy. Years-long marketing campaigns featuring big stars and Super Bowl ads. Okay, well let's pull back a little bit here, because it's not like this was just some indie game that a couple of ragtag programmers scrapped together in their mom's garage. Like, this was a AAA blockbuster game. You know, this was a AAA blockbuster game. It had a marketing campaign behind it, like all the bells and whistles. This wasn't some scrappy upstart. Like, the surprise is that a role-playing game based in the Dungeons and Dragons universe had as much acclaim and celebration from the gamer contingent as a Call of Duty or Grand Theft Auto. But the surprise isn't that, you know, that happened because the game was developed by 5 dudes in a basement. You know, the surprise is that people are more receptive to the fantasy role-playing game genre now more than ever. Which is cool. I want that. I like that.